Hi everybody, my name is Harriet Muncaster and I am an author and an illustrator, and I thought I would read you a short extract from my new book, Victoria's Stitch, Bad and Glittering. This is actually the proof copy cover, so the actual cover looks a bit different from this. Okay, so I'm going to read you the scene where Victoria's Stitch and Celestine, who are twins, have their first scene together in the book. And here is a picture of Victoria's Stitch and Celestine. And this is the first scene they are in together in the book. As Celestine stood staring into the darkness, a fizzle of cherry pink disrupted the velvety blackness of the night. Celestine's eyes widened as the sparks came right near her window and then landed near the base of her home. A dark, shadowy figure in a hooded cape was walking towards the back door. The figure lit a wand and held it up, revealing a pale white face aglow with diamond light. Big eyes, ringed heavily and cold, blinked under long, sooty lashes, and silver stars glittered on the hood of the cape. It was Victoria's Stitch. Celestine gripped onto the windowsill, her heart beginning to patter. Even after all this time, her sister still made her nervous. What was she up to at this time of night? Victoria's Stitch never usually went out. She didn't have any friends. Celestine heard her sister come into the house and start clattering about noisily in the kitchen. She was probably making her favourite drink, and Celestine's mouth watered at the thought. She pulled her dressing gown on over her clothes and made her way down the stairs. At first, Victoria's Stitch didn't see her. She was too busy snapping up a slab of dark chocolate and dropping the shards into a bowl. "Hey," said Celestine. Victoria's Stitch jumped slightly and turned around. "Oh, it's you," she said. "What are you doing up so late?" "I was with some friends," said Celestine. "We had a fire down by the stream. What are you doing?" "Making hot chocolate," said Victoria's Stitch, putting the bowl on top of a pan and starting to stir it with a wooden spoon. Something felt different about her tonight. She was fizzling with an excited energy, more manic than usual, and she smelt of wood smoke. "I mean, what have you been doing?" asked Celestine, pulling out a chair and sitting down at the table. "Oh, you know, this and that," said Victoria's Stitch. "Do you want some hot chocolate?" "Yes, please," said Celestine. "Let me help you." "I don't need help," said Victoria's Stitch, breaking up more shards so that bits flew onto the floor. She stuck the wooden spoon in the pan again and swirled it around. Melted chocolate slopped over the side and ran down onto the stove. "Where have you been?" Celestine asked again, as she got out some cream and 2 acorn cups for mugs. "Just around," said Victoria's Stitch, flying about, looking at the stars, playing with stardust. She reached up and patted the tiny calcite green droplet on her shoulder. Stardust nuzzled into her neck, his scales shimmering. "Oh, okay," said Celestine, giving up. She knew that if she poked too hard, Victoria's Stitch would disappear to her room, and she wanted her to stay. They didn't have anybody else. Victoria's Stitch took the pan off the heat and messily poured the chocolate into 2 acorn cups. Then she put some fluffy nut cream on top. She opened the cupboard and took out a jar of chocolate stars. There was a label stuck onto the jar with her name scrawled possessively onto it. She haphazardly sprinkled a large handful of the stars onto the top of her own drink. "Wait," she said, and went back to the cupboard, pulling out some cinnamon. "I know it's your favourite," she said, sprinkling it onto Celestine's fluff of cream. "I bet no one else knows that, do they?" She smiled self-assuredly as she put the cup down in front of Celestine, as though reminding her that they belonged to each other. Celestine smiled back, and a flicker of familiarity passed between them. It was these tiny gestures that made her feel sure that Victoria's Stitch still cared. "Are we still going to the graduation ball together?" she asked as she took a sip of her hot chocolate. "Of course we are," said Victoria Stitch, and she looked slightly offended that Celestine had had to ask. But Celestine never felt sure of her sister nowadays. Things had changed since the days when they had shared everything together. Victoria Stitch had become more secretive, more distant. "It's in the royal palace grounds," said Victoria Stitch, and her eyes glittered angrily, "where we should be living." Celestine didn't reply. She wished she hadn't brought up anything about the graduation ball. "Won't you tell me where you've been?" she asked, trying to change the subject. But Victoria Stitch frowned, the fragile thread between them immediately snapping with an almost audible ping. "I simply must get my beauty sleep," she said. "See you in the morning," and with a swish of her sheer starry cape, she left the room. So there you go, there's a little extract from my new book, Victoria Stitch, Bad and